got a chance to talk to the new offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. It's Bob Cooter. Bob Cooter worked as an offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He also has worked for the Eagles, the Jaguars, etc. He's a pretty well-traveled cat, but his travels in the NFL as a coach began here in Indianapolis with the Colts in 2009, working on Jim Caldwell's staff. He talked about his offensive philosophy. It's talent-based. If you've got talent, you're going to get the football, and that's the way it's going to work. The first question he was asked was whether not having a quarterback, and this is the correct question, and predictable that it was the first one, not having a quarterback, does that impact negatively kind of the implementation of the offense?
Not really, because this time of year, any new coaching staff, you're sort of putting the thing together. You're putting the playbook together. You're putting the details of each play together. And that has to start at a foundational level. That has to start at a simplistic level, and you build it from there. So we're able to have a lot of conversations as a coaching staff that aren't maybe necessarily player dependent. And then as we get our team, our offense sort of finalized, locked in, at every position, that's when you're able to sort of lock in on, this guy's strengths, that guy's weaknesses, what we want to do to emphasize such and such a player or build around a quarterback. So those will be ongoing discussions that always get a little more fine-tuned as the year goes on, as the team comes together.
Well, how'd you get that first job here? Was it 09?
2009, yep, 2009. I was previously I was at the University of Tennessee, played ball at the University of Tennessee, was a graduate assistant there. Coach Fulmer and the staff got let go. I was looking for a job, looking for an interview. Was lucky enough to get an interview with Jim Caldwell, who was the new head coach.
Was it like a quality control?
Yeah, quality. I mean, gosh, I've had I think I had 3 different titles in 3 different years, but quality control would be roughly the right thing to call. I got an interview and was lucky enough to get my foot in the door here and get started.
When you're an offensive coordinator, who's working for a head coach who kind of has a scheme that he's bringing with him, or at least one in mind, how does your role kind of take shape, and how much of your concepts and ideas and so forth do you bring with you and try to implement as well?
Yeah, I think every situation is different, right? I think every coaching staff kind of has to find that balance, find how they work together. So obviously with all the success Shane's had, all the success those guys had in Philly, especially the last couple of years, but even before that with the Chargers, I'm excited to sit down and really lock in on a lot of the schematic stuff that Coach Steichen likes to do. We all have different experiences throughout our career, and I think when the time comes, we'll be able to talk through a lot of those different ideas, different schemes, different philosophies. But like I said, at this point, it's a foundational part of the spring for us. We, new coaching staff just kind of got put together, show up, got to go to the combine. Here's a lot of personnel things going on. We're putting together the playbook behind the scenes. So I think a lot of that will flesh itself out a little bit in the future. It's a little bit to be determined, but we're all kind of pushing forward with the same attitude to go do what we can do, in our best capacity as coaches, to give our guys the best chance when the season does roll around. So we're not obviously even close to there yet, but we'll see, I guess.
Jim Bob, you've got the bigger title now and the bigger role, but you've worked with quarterbacks, and I'm sure you'll have input on whoever this guy is. Are there basics of how you develop a young quarterback, whether he's a pocket guy or a guy that gets outside? Are there things that a rookie has to focus on?
I think there are fundamentals and techniques that are really important to the position. Some guys are more well-versed in that at a young age, and other guys are maybe have come from a different background or have a different sort of foundation from that perspective. So we'll look at all those things, but every guy's so different. Every guy's background's so different. Even the veteran guys in this league, what offenses they've been a part of. I've been around some veteran quarterbacks who, when you ask them to do something different offensively, schematically, some guys have an easy time of doing that, and some guys struggle with that, and you have to work around different ways, and you have to sort of, it's a lot of these things are like learning a different language, right? I know English, but this is what the word sounds like in Spanish. This is, if you just know this word and that word, we can make that thing come together. We just have to learn that translation. So a little bit of that's the same for any quarterback, young, old, whatever. Can we talk the same language, which lets us get on the field and execute a little bit faster? And then with every quarterback, you're going to have things technique-wise, fundamental-wise, that you're going to sort of hone in on as a coaching staff. But that's going to be different for every guy, at least in my estimation.
That he has to unlearn, or you guys have to adapt to what he does?
It's a little bit of both. Sometimes late in the off season, when you get a young player in here, a lot of times the personnel side of this game happens at different points in the off season. When you get a guy in here later in the off season, I don't think you want to go crazy changing fundamentals and techniques. Maybe you just tighten something up here and there, tweak something here and there. But I think definitely, Shane's alluded to it in several press conferences. I think we're going to build this thing around the team we have, around the quarterback we have first and foremost. I think that's a staple of how we want to do things for sure.
Jim Bob, it's good to see you again.
What's up, Nate?
It's second chance for you to be an offensive coordinator, and just kind of curious, just as far as running the offense, just curious what you've kind of learned over the past few years since then. You've worn kind of a couple different hats. Where have you kind of challenged yourself to grow to kind of be better for the second time around?
Yeah, really good question. So obviously in any business, any line of work, you have your ups and your downs, your successes and your failures. Feel like the last few years I've had a really good opportunity to maybe sit back and learn a little bit. Maybe not take a leading role on a team, but have some opportunities to do some different jobs, learn some different things as you go through those jobs. Spending a couple years as a running back coach was great for me from a growth perspective, from getting a different perspective on the offense, from a different spot in the backfield, right? Getting a little deeper into the run game, getting a little deeper into different parts of the offense. That was great for me. And then being able to be around those guys in Philly that year and really do all sorts of different things behind the scenes, which was kind of exciting to get to dive into some, situational ball, to get to dive into some, just see how those guys game plan, see how different guys do things differently behind the scenes can be really valuable for any coach to kind of broaden their perspective and broaden mine for sure. And then last year in Jacksonville, got to sort of be around some really good coaches, really good players, and do some game planning, do some different roles behind the scenes in that organization that I think helped me grow and helped me get better. And that's what this, it's just like the players, right? We talk to the players about, getting better, working on something every offseason, trying to make your game better. Every year you're a little bit better because you added a few tools in the offseason. I think that's what we have to do as coaches, right? Especially, been around a little while, but don't have 30, 40 years of experience. It's a good time to grow and learn for us as coaches too, and I put myself in that category for sure.
Overlap with Shane in 21 in Philly, and at that point he was a relative unknown on the head coaching front. What did you learn about him then, and did you see a head coach in waiting?
Yeah, really detailed, organized, passionate about the game. Really good teacher, like extremely good teacher, taught the game well. Like I said, I was able to kind of sit in the back of meetings, right? I wasn't doing anything out front. I wasn't leading anybody or teaching anybody. I was able to sort of sit back and observe and watch him work with Nick Sirianni, work with Kevin Petula, work with Brian Johnson, work with Stout on putting together game plans, on teaching players, installing plays, how they're going to call the game on Sunday. Just a lot of opportunities to be a fly on the wall and watch him operate. Like I said, just detailed, passionate, loves the game, loves the guys, loves the players. It was really, really great to work with then and has been so far here too.
Was
that the first time
I'll let you guys do it out. We gotta get our sense here. Okay, go ahead.
Is that the first time you had met Shane, or had you guys crossed paths in any way?
We've crossed paths over the years, not unlike a lot of people in our profession. Some of the same people, and you just end up kind of spending a little time around each other because you may know somebody that he knows or something like that.
Do you think this would be a possibility at some point? Like, maybe I could be a paired up on the staff?
God, I'll tell you what, the one thing I've learned in this business is that predicting things like that is just impossible. Like every time as an NFL coach, you think such and such a job, that's the one for you, or I'm definitely gonna, end up working with that guy again. Yeah, I've ended up wrong a whole lot, So I knew I really enjoyed working with Shane and was excited when the phone call came to come get the opportunity to interview here. So.
To elaborate, you were talking earlier about dealing with young quarterbacks, and I'm wondering, this kind of produces interesting answers when you're dealing with a young quarterback. I mean, is developing that position, or how unique, I guess, is developing that position, that player, than any other position, right? I mean, just because the demands of the job is different, is the job of coaching them different too?
Every position is a little different, and quarterback would fall into that category. Yeah, it's a little bit different. The quarterback position, obviously they're dealing with some different things that other positions aren't. Sometimes it's just as simple as a quarterback, you have to be an excellent communicator, right? You have to really communicate to your receivers what route you want, or maybe you change the route. What protection you want up front, or maybe you change the protection. Even just the play call in the huddle, right? You have to communicate. Those guys get a play call in their ear, and they have to communicate it to their teammates. Whereas maybe some other positions, you have to receive communication, right? And everybody does a little bit of both. It goes a little deeper than that, but that's one outlook of, hey, a lot of times quarterback's the leader of the team because they do all that communication. They are in charge of making sure everybody gets that information. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that are unique to the quarterback position. Obviously, there's a lot of scrutiny in sports, a lot of scrutiny in that position. You get a lot of praise when you win, you get a lot of blame when you lose, and most of the guys tend to figure that out pretty quick at the quarterback position. But every position we're trying to coach to maximize those guys. But I think you deal with different people differently in this world, in this business. I think that goes positionally a little bit too.
How have you seen the position evolve since you first started? I mean, you started with Peyton Manning, and Jalen Hurts a couple years ago, Trevor Lawrence.
I think it's evolving in that guys are building a little more tools into their game, or guys maybe have a few more things to work with. You see guys maybe move around a little bit more than they used to, and that's not entirely true because there are always guys moving around. There are always guys making plays with their feet, but I feel like maybe it's a higher percentage of starting NFL quarterbacks that do extend plays with their feet, that do maybe run the ball on some of the run game type stuff. To me, that's a tool, right? That's a tool that's valuable for an offense. If we can make a few more yards because our quarterback can move a little bit, well, great, and I think there's more guys that are doing that. But outside of that, I mean, the game sort of always changes every 2, 3, 4 years schematically. Some offense was hot, and then everybody does it and copies it, and now there's 15 teams running that offense and kind of gets watered down, and now there's something new that's hot, and same thing on defense. So schematically, I kind of think that goes up and down over the years. But the quarterback position, they're going to keep being new tools that get added to the position, new things guys are figuring out. But ultimately, you have to drop back, you have to throw the ball accurately, probably to the right guy, right? Make a good decision. If you can extend plays, when we draw up a play that doesn't necessarily work, maybe we don't have a receiver open on a play, that guy that can extend the play and make that play that maybe wasn't drawn on the board, that does have some value, and you're seeing a little bit more of that. But I don't think it's a hard and fast absolute. I just think it brings a little value to the position.
You're obviously going to build the offense around the talent you have. And I think Shane said, throw to score, run to win. Your impressions from watching video, but you've seen him on the sidelines with Jonathan Taylor. Is that the kind of guy you can maximize?
Yeah.
Should maximize.
Yeah, really talented player. Obviously has had a ton of success in this league, even at a young age, right? Young guy hasn't played a million years, but has had a lot of success. He's a guy I'm really excited to be around, to work with, to sort of really dig in and go through a bunch of practices with him. And, you can see it on tape, but to really, as coach we say, kind of get our hands on him, is to really kind of get around guys like that in practice and really get a sense of what he loves to do, what he does best, and really emphasize those things. shoot, that's a really exciting reason for me to be here, just to be around players like him and sort of help them grow, help them get the most out of each other and get the most out of themselves, and sort of put together a winning offense around guys like that.
Have you been at your core a backs by committee guy or a feature guy? I mean, it seems like backs by committee is the way to go now, but that's not been him.
Yeah, I think it's different for each group. I think it's different for each grouping and sort of. I don't think there's an absolute wrong and right way to use your running back position. I think it has to do with who's in the room and how you want to use them within their offense. So I think both paths are viable as a general sort of statement, as a general sort of NFL coaching statement. But when you have somebody like Jonathan Taylor, you probably ought to play him a little bit more, right? Probably ought to play him a little bit more. So what that number ends up being, who knows? But he's a good player. We like to put good players on the field. We'll probably try to do that.
Last question, Nate.
You spent most of your career working with veteran quarterbacks. You talked about rewiring some things with them. You get excited just the idea of a blank slate with the rookie and seeing it just from day one and seeing exactly where it can go.
Yeah, I think new experiences are always exciting, right? I haven't, and not who knows what direction this offseason takes, but to be in a new place here with probably a new quarterback that I haven't spent time with, worked with, developed at all. Young or old, whatever that situation is, I am excited. Always excited to kind of get to know new players, get to know their strengths, their weaknesses. No matter how much I always think I know about somebody, watching tape of them, maybe listening to press conferences, to be in the media room, to be on the practice field, to really get around those guys a ton, has been really beneficial to me in my career, learning how they function, learning how they see things. And I think once you get into that situation, once you grow that type of relationship and really sort of begin to hear how a guy likes to do things or why he sees something a certain way, that's when you're able to maximize and really get the most out of a guy. And like I said earlier, is quarterback a little bit different than other positions? Sure, but we're doing that with everybody, right? We're doing that with every member of our offense. Can we get to know them? Can we get to figure out what they do best, what they like to do, maybe what they don't do so great? Can we keep them out of that situation? That's what we're doing for all of us. So
that's Jim Bob Cooter. Seems like an ordinary guy. Seems like a guy. You know what I mean? Some coaches try to walk around behaving like coaches. Jim Bob Cooter behaves like a guy who happens to be a coach. I like that. That's my favorite kind of coach.